This administration's liberal big government policies, we could sure use her in the Congress sometime, I can tell you. She's a fighter, and we here in Southwest Alabama love a fighter. Now, I'm glad that she's our guest of honor tonight because she has a new show called Amazing America on the Sportsman's Channel.
That's not where it was the first time.
I'm so glad you made it to Southwest Alabama, Governor, because we have some great things for sportsmen to do here on the Alabama Gulf Coast. Our fisheries off Baldwin and Mobile counties are world-renowned, most notably for our red snapper stocks that are enjoyed, or used to be enjoyed, by recreational fishermen from all over the country. Now, as we all know, and as I just told Governor Palin, we got a little problem with Barack Obama's federal government and the way they treat our snapper season. And I think the mayor and I know a little bit about that, don't we, Mayor? I do believe if we had a leader in Washington leading our country like Governor Palin, we'd be able to fish for red snapper the days we need to fish for red snapper. Whether you're from Alaska or Alabama, you don't have to know much to realize that those kind of policies just don't make sense. And our speaker tonight, whether she speaks in front of a group like this or she speaks on national television, speaks for the common sense of the American people, the conservative common sense that has made this country great. And that's why it's important that we have leaders like her and many other leaders in this room like that throughout the Republican Party. I don't know about you, but I'm looking forward very much tonight to hear what she's going to say to us. So without much more further ado, let me call to the podium and ask you to give a big South Alabama welcome to Governor Sarah Palin.
Mr. Chairman, I appreciate all the hard work that you put into this wonderful dinner. We thank the Event Center staff and caterers, great food. We certainly appreciate all the organization that goes into such an event. And Mr. Chairman, I appreciated you giving those shout outs to Kathy and to Becky. You know, I think that that really illustrates the truth to that old saying that, you know, behind every good man stands a big surprised woman. So Becky and Kathy, thank you so much for also doing all this good work. And Mr. Mayor, you got me all choked up when you were up here, really, because here Bailey, she could have been out tossing mullets tonight, I understand. Thank you for being here, learning all about this Alabama recreation stuff. I hear about the mullet tossing, and of course I'm thinking, because I know, you know, they give you guys a hard time with this perception of being rednecks. Well, nothing like Alaska, nothing like us up there. I'm thinking mullets, you know, every guy I know has a mullet. How do they toss them? Is it a wig? Is it a toupee? A toupee is a mullet. Somebody should market such a thing. But no, and I've met my first alligator farmer in line tonight. I mean, Todd, have we ever had an alligator farmer before? That's kind of cool. That's something that we could come back and maybe participate in. I know that Todd's really happy to get to be here. We're thawing out. It's gorgeous here. The weather is wonderful. In fact, having my entire entourage here, which is Todd, the other half of our entourage, Piper, she couldn't make it. She has a basketball tournament this weekend, and now joining our whole entourage is Trig, because he's getting old enough, you know, to get out there and kind of travel around with us. I know. He's just, we're missing him a lot this weekend, but we've been really busy this weekend, traveling around the country to find the candidates that the folks up here have already mentioned to you, not by name, but by the values that they represent and by the fight that they have within them. Candidates who are going to go to Washington as we take back the Senate, and we are going to fundamentally restore the United States of America. And we are going to do all that we can to stop Barack Obama's fundamental transformation of the most exceptional country on earth. The things that they are doing there in Washington, the out-of-control spending, the debt that is incurring and growing and there's no end in sight, what that is doing to our country, what that's doing really to our country's morale. You know, they say that, yeah, economic depression, that's bad. That's really bad for a country. But it's nothing compared to a depression of the soul. And until we change things so quickly in this country, and we can do that at the ballot box, there will be that depression of the soul of America. And I'm at the point of thinking, I think it's purposeful. I think what's going on in Washington, D.C., they've got to be smarter than they're acting, right? Nobody can be that dumb and be so full of lack of common sense, right? To keep doing what they're doing in Washington and thinking that things are going to get better for the country, you know, when there are more people in poverty today than ever, and you know, fewer people working and more people having to rely on government and more enticements to rely on government. You know, that's just stupid. So they can't be that stupid, so it's got to be purposeful, and that's unfortunate. And that would cause that depression of the soul that we cannot afford. So that's what Todd and I have been traveling around, and just got off a little campaign swing with Senators Ted Cruz and Mike Lee, and they're out there so bold and powerful with their voice, standing up to those Democrats, to those liberals and that failed agenda of theirs, but also standing up to those in our own party that sometimes go wayward and sometimes kind of go along to get along and embrace that status quo. They know the status quo has got to go. And we have got to turn things around there too, and just stand strong on the claims of the Republican platform. It's not a difficult thing to do. It's not a concept that isn't hard to grasp. You fulfill your campaign promises, Republicans. You stand on those promises, the planks in the platform, and then your constituents are happy and you get reelected. But if you don't do that, no, you know, they're kind of considered rhinos. Growing up in Alaska, my dad was a hunting guide, and I learned a lot from him. So I'm not afraid at all to go on a little rhino hunt. And I'm so proud to be a Republican. I never before have I been so adamant about party politics, because before I was always able to say legitimately, genuinely, I'd say, you know, I'm not one to, you know, want to be enrolled, enlisted in a party where there's a machine, an establishment that kind of runs a show and tries to tell you what to do. Being an Alaskan, you know, you have an independent spirit within you, and a streak of independence that nobody's going to take away, and you don't want anybody to tell you what to do and to sit down and shut up. So you know, being an independent, most people in Alaska, they're not registered in either party. And I have always understood that. I've respected that. I've been a part of that. But nowadays, as we were talking about up here, it is so important to talk to your friends, your neighbors, your family members, and remind them that unless you are registered in the Republican Party, and unless you understand what the planks in the platform are and you're holding your politicians accountable to stand on those planks, what you're doing is essentially being part of the problem, because you're giving numbers to the other side of the ledger, and that's what Barack Obama wants. He wants those numbers. He wants that enrollment in the Democrat Party, obviously, because that is what's giving him the power. Now, what also is giving him the power, though, is the media. They're supposed to be the referee in all of this, right? A cornerstone of democracy. Goodness. They don't do their job. They're obviously biased. They're liberal. In fact, are there reporters in here tonight? There's usually a mole or two playing, you know, either. We'll hear about it tomorrow or tonight. No, the media won't do its job, and these reporters, they're they're obviously unjust, unfair. It just makes us work harder, right? And be better candidates. It makes us have to be more articulate and allows us to be more passionate about what it is that we believe in our vision for America. But these reporters, I had one who had kind of given me a hard time about not having graduated from an Ivy League school. I was a graduate in journalism from a state university, you know, and kind of snarky, this reporter said, oh, and what'd you major in? Underwater basket weaving of moose hair or something? And I said, no, journalism, because it was easier. And I'm lying. That wasn't me. It was Joe Namath who was asked that, and I read that quote the other day, and I got a kick out of that. Speaking of Joe Namath, speaking of reporters, it was Bear Bryant who years ago had been asked to chip in $10 to cover the costs of a reporter's funeral, and he instead chipped in $20 and told the guy, bury two. Absolutely so honored. Again, I haven't started yet, doggone it. I'm ready, so you guys just keep eating and do all your whatever you have to do here, because we do have a lot to say tonight about what it is that it's going to take in terms of fighting for the future of the country, not just going along to get along, and you know, really having to crank it up, crank up the passion, crank up the muscle that is going to be necessary to get the country back on track. And the appreciation that I have, though, for the opportunity to be here and to speak freely about these issues, just basically to be able to assemble. We thank for protecting all of that, our United States military, and if you protect and if you enjoy and if you can respect and understand your freedom, then you thank a vet. And those vets who are here tonight, I want to tell you that we honor you. In fact, I would ask anybody who has served in the past or currently serving, if you could stand up, we want to honor you. And some of you haven't been thanked appropriately, and we thank you. Thank you. Truly, we honor you. And a country and leadership in a country that truly honors you doesn't cut your budget, doesn't cut the benefits. You should come first. You are the ones, and your families are the ones who have sacrificed so much for our freedoms. It makes absolutely no sense that today, with this administration, we're seeing cuts to our military. To me, that's a manifestation of some really screwed up priorities. And that is the reason, those screwed up priorities, that we've got to take it back. And these midterm elections are where it's going to happen. It has to happen. As Bill was pointing out, it can happen. I believe it will happen. We have some amazing candidates out there. Some guys and some gals who, man, some of them, it looks like they're coming out of the woodwork. You know, they're not part of the machine. They're grassroots efforts behind them, and they're going to be the ones that can turn some things around. So I appreciate that they're willing to be in the arena and do what it takes to get elected. Of course, to get elected, it takes you, and you've got the responsibility. We have the responsibility to get the right people in there and to work extremely hard and to put our resources, our fiscal and our human resources, our time, our energy into getting them elected. It's our responsibility. Government is supposed to be working for us, not us working for them. It's our government, it's for the people, so it's our responsibility to get things turned around in this government, right? I mean, we got them in there. You know, we did. We got them in. You kind of get what you voted for, right? And though we didn't vote for them, too many of them did. And speaking of that, 08 election, a little bit of a mention of that 08 election. First, sorry.
Grab that bottle. Knock that thing down, please.
Came in second out of 2.
Thank you.
And I know parents teach their kids today that winning isn't everything. I think beats the heck out of coming in second. we have learned so much in these 6 short years. Thinking back to those 2008 election results, we were told at that time, well, elections have consequences. Big government is here to stay. And we were all told, you better just get used to it, because oh yes we can. Oh yes we can grow government, and we don't have to be held accountability, because again, it's the media, the referee, they're on our side, and that's been so obvious with what the administration has gotten away with for about 6 years. But I am convinced, I get the feeling and I see the proof that people are waking up all over this country. Their eyes are awake. They're opening up their minds to what it is actually going on in this country. And a lot of it has to do with a specific issue, and that's Obamacare. And people are understanding that it's thanks to Obamacare, a big government policy that's going to cause more Americans to live in poverty, and a record number of people just giving up on looking for a job because employers can't afford to hire more people, or they're going to be penalized with more mandates that will cost them more from their bottom line because of Obamacare. And more people are understanding the ramifications now of what it is that Obama, Pelosi, and Reid have done to us via Obamacare. We also have other agencies, of course, that blows my mind what they had been getting away with until recently, I think, through this awakening of the citizenry. One agency, a big government that Obama ushered in, we find out targets and harasses innocent citizens who happen to disagree with the president's very liberal and failed agenda. That's un-American. Another agency spying on us, our phone calls, our communications, that's un-American. Another agency, a big government that couldn't be bothered to defend our ambassador during the Benghazi raid. The terrorists who murdered the 4 brave Americans couldn't be bothered, and had the gall, the Democrat in charge of that agency, to flippantly reply to Congress when asked, what the heck were you doing? Why did you provide the security? The reply being, what difference does it make? Oh man, it makes the world of difference to those who love this country, to those who understand what has been going on in these past years, to put us on this path towards the insecurity. If we want to be solvent, if we want to be sovereign, everything's got to change. And the way that things can change to stop this agenda of the fundamental transformation that Barack Obama promised us, right? Before the election. And people still voted for him, even though he had promised us. It was there on the news that he was going to fundamentally transform America. The only way that we can stop that is through the ballot box, making sure that we get those numbers on our side, that we get those 6 senators in there to take over the Senate, to get rid of Harry Reid out of leadership position. It is imperative. Can you imagine what's going to happen in the next 2 years if, say, they're still in control of the Senate, as Barack Obama's the lamest of lame ducks, right? He has nothing to lose. How radical things are going to turn in this country with social issues, with fiscal issues. All bets are off. They've got nothing to lose but cram through that agenda and ignore rule of law, ignore constitutional rights, governed by fiat. Sounds kind of familiar, sounds like what's going on today, but it's going to get that much worse if we don't take back that Senate. So we have those big government agencies doing things like taking away our health care insurance and forcing us to buy something that we don't want and we can't afford. Since when is it the federal government's role, right, to tell us what to purchase. That's unconstitutional, that's un-American. Yet, so far, they've kind of gotten away with it. What we're learning is that for all of our investments in this big government that we were told is here, get used to it, well, what we're getting in return are the fewer jobs, more poverty, less energy development, less security, less income, less privacy, our constitutional rights being absolutely stomped upon. And it is going to be people like you who understand what it takes to turn things around to do so. And I know it's Alabama that understands. Your state motto even, you dare to defend our rights. It's Alabama with your roots, with your foundation of defending our rights that needs to be translated and transferred to the rest of the country. You're doing something right here in Alabama. You really are. You understand the importance of energy and natural resource development. God has created these natural resources for man's responsible use. And I believe He, having shed His grace upon this country, blessing us with these natural resources, you all understand that with your fisheries, with your oil development opportunities. He has blessed us with those resources, so it's our responsibility to responsibly exploit them and use them, right, for productivity. Well, that, of course, is opposite of the Democrats' agenda, which makes absolutely no sense on any level. You all understand that inherent link between energy and security and energy and prosperity. Instead of the way it is today, and it's BS that Obama is out there telling people there's more energy development today than there's ever been, and oh yeah, it's all thanks to him. No, via regulation, they're locking things up. They're saying no to a simple infrastructure pipe, the Keystone Pipeline. That makes no sense. It's not true when he says that we are aggressively allowing more resource development in the private sector. No, the resource development, the oil development that's going on today, that's on state lands and private lands. The feds are locking up everything that they can lock up. They're taking every opportunity they can, again, mostly through via regulation, skipping Congress, skipping the rule of law, and just doing what they want to out of the White House to lock up our energy sources. Instead, what they are forcing us to continue to do is be reliant on other countries to feed us energy. We don't have to be in that position. Relying on countries that can use energy as a weapon against us, and we're paying them. We're borrowing money from one foreign country to give to another foreign country to be able to get some resources when we have them here underfoot. Do you think with the Democrats in control, anything is going to change with that agenda? It's going to get worse. And that's why we need these Republicans elected. We have these now results of what big government is doing to this country, and it is fundamentally transforming the most exceptional country in the world, the former superpower, you know. Barack Obama had said once, I still can't believe that this one kind of went over a lot of people's heads, and of course the media ignored it. Obama answered a question a few years ago. Somebody had asked him something about, America's role in the world. His response was so telling to me. He said, well, whether you like it or not, we're still a superpower. And I'm thinking, whether you like it or not, yeah, we like it. America is that beacon of hope. We're that shining city on a hill that the other nations have been able to look to try to emulate, because they see the prosperity here. They see our security. They see our ability to be so voluntarily generous to other countries, to within in our own communities, and they have looked at us for leadership. Now, that leadership role in the world has so diminished. Do you think any country respects us more today than they did 5-6 years ago? I can't think of any country that would respect us more. Instead, on foreign policy, what we have done is kind of poke our allies in the eye and kind of coddle our adversaries, the enemy, which makes absolutely no sense. And it's like, gosh, this attempt to bring America down to this level that absolutely will not provide that leadership and security for the rest of the world, it has to be purposeful. Because again, I don't think that anybody can be that stupid to not understand why we don't want to be a leader in the world. If we are not, there is a vacuum that will be filled by the bad guys. It's as simple as that. And we're seeing a little bit of that going on right now. Now, how do you cure such a thing? Well, go back to energy resources. If we were able to develop our resources and be absolutely energy independent and be exporters of our excess energy even, think of the difference in the situation in Ukraine. What would happen if a tyrant like Putin wasn't able to use energy as a weapon and for leverage against surrounding countries there in Russia? Think how different things would be if America would have seized these opportunities that we've had over these 5 years to allow the Keystone Pipeline, to allow opening of ANWR, to make sure that the oil companies are held accountable for every drop of oil that they would ever allow in our waters, to make sure that people can trust them, that they're doing the right thing, and trust that our agencies are holding them accountable so that there's faith in our ability and our responsibility to develop resources. Things would be completely different on the international scene if America would have seized the opportunities that we've had in these last years. But I do believe that Americans are finally realizing that big government, it's operating on the law of diminished returns. People are realizing that the more that's being taken from us, the more that we're kind of paying into the system, the less that we get back that benefits the people. Government is feeding off of us, and it's certainly not the other way around. Consider, again, the example, the Orwellian boondoggle that is Obamacare and the website. Just take one aspect of it, how messed up the website is, right? It cost $1 billion to build a website, and now we're being told it's going to cost $1 billion to fix the website. Now, $1 billion here, $1 billion there. There are about, what, 314 million people in America? Government could have made us all millionaires a couple times over if they had just skipped the broken website, the dollars put into fixing such a thing, and allowed the people to keep their tax dollars and invest them as they deemed appropriate. But that's how backwards and upside down the thinking is there in DC, and again, until I think recently, they being able to get away with it. The problem too, with the leadership in DC, I so appreciate the Republican fighters in Congress and in the Senate just doing what they can to kind of hold on right now until they get some reinforcements sent to them in the Senate, right? These guys, they need some reinforcements, because if Harry Reid keeps that gavel, consider that, well, I look at Harry Reid as one who is an opium dealer. Well, he's a dealer, that's the Vegas in him, coming from Nevada, and you misinterpreted opium. Other people's money, OPM. See, now a mole, a reporter, well, that'll be a takeaway from him, right? Is that I accused Harry Reid of being an opium dealer. Well, I did, so I did. But Harry Reid so easily spending other people's money, so irresponsibly. That is the foundation of a liberal agenda. And that's the opposite of what a fiscal conservative agenda is about. A fiscal conservative respects the power of the people, the wisdom of the people, the ability for us to know how to raise our families and run our businesses better than some far-off elitist capital, so far away, so out of touch. That's the difference between the two agendas and between the two parties, which makes me, again, so passionate about the Republican Party, and so proud to be a Republican, and so happy to be amongst friends who do understand how important it is to expediently turn some things around here. This law of diminished returns, though, when liberals talk about spreading the wealth around, and you've been hearing a lot about that kind of mantra, that propaganda coming from the White House, the spreading the wealth around, the necessity of that, well, it sure doesn't spread around to the rest of us, does it, that money in Washington? It circulates among the crony capitalists and the permanent political class in D.C. And that's why we have to undo what's been done with the Obama administration too, because that crony capitalism will destroy our economy. Now, of course, we have welfare, we have the safety net, and that's to be used appropriately. Sadly, though, today it's being used to keep too many people dependent upon government. That's purposeful also. But the real wealth redistribution comes in the form of the bailouts and the pay-for-play schemes that you're hearing and seeing coming out of Washington, and that's to lobbyists and corporations who have the income, the disposable income. So they hire these lobbyists to grease the wheels of government to favor them, and it's the bubble that they are all in, why it is that they think it's so appropriate. You know, the wealthiest neighborhoods in the country, they all surround Washington, D.C. today, 6 out of the 10 wealthiest, and that's where the lobbyists live, and you know, these are lobbyists working on both sides of the aisle, and man, that's another reason I want to help clean up the Republican Party, because it's embarrassing to know that lobbyists are doing this with and to the Republican Party. Now, of course, and all they were doing was fulfilling their campaign promises, right? Understanding what the tool was that finally we have to actually get rid of Obamacare. That opened a lot of people's eyes too. That's been part of this great awakening. And we need those folks as reinforcements to the good guys who are willing to fight, who have a servant's heart. They're in there for the right reasons. We need them to be provided the reinforcements. There's a lot of talk, I know when I talk about some of the problems that are within the Republican Party, and I only say it kind of like as a mom to try to make everybody behave and, you know, do a little bit better like you do as a mom, right? Well, I don't say it to condemn at all the Republican Party, but I know that there's a lot of talk about the Republican Party being fractured from its grassroots, and I probably contribute to some of that talk. But again, I'm doing it just to try to help, right? Well, it's nothing new, though, a discussion about being fractured. This so-called fracture, if you think back, you know, it wasn't that long ago, but think back in history, that fracture dates back not too many decades ago when grassroots conservatives, who were the foot soldiers of the Reagan Revolution, they were the ones who were called the wacko-birds and, you know, the obstructionists and all that, and they were just going rogue to, those were the Reaganites, right? And friends, today that, I guess, fracture off of the establishment of the Republican Party, you know who they are? It's the Tea Party Patriots. And Tea Party stands for taxed enough already. It represents common sense, just following the best blueprint to create a more perfect union, the Constitution, knowing that we need to rein in government, live within our means, just like we do in our homes and in our businesses. Not radical ideas at all. They're the heirs of the common sense conservatives in the Tea Party, those who were part of that Reagan Revolution, and the Tea Party has risen up because of wayward politicians refusing to stand up and fight for economic freedom and limited government, despite, again, campaigning on those principles every election cycle, because that is how we obviously got into this debt-ridden mess in the first place. And it amazes me, you know, the people, candidates campaign one way, they get in there and they govern another way. Do you know any Republicans Republican who's ever been elected promising higher taxes, wasteful spending, bigger government. So why are they voting for all that stuff today? They weren't elected to do such a thing, right? Now it's our job to hold them responsible and accountable, because our fight against big government isn't just with the obvious, the Obama administration. As I said, you know, the age of Obama is ending. It's the end of an era, and he being the lamest of lame ducks. I think the only victories that Obama has within him now, within his grasp, are those that would be handed to him by those who want to go along to get along, and again, kind of embrace that status quo. And man, that means those who refuse to stand up and fight. And that brings me to why it is that we need to send warriors who will fight for what is right, not just be there as another vote. No, we need those who are willing to lay it all on the line, because it's the future of America, and it is now or never. It is now or never that we turn these things around, this road that we have been put upon. It is insane. It's insanity to think that we can keep on going the way that we're going and we're going to get any kind of different result than what we have already seen. We need to send to Washington those who are unafraid, those who will stand strong on that Republican platform, every plank in it, on the social issues, respecting life. You know, that's the foundation of it all. If you have no respect for innocent life, all the other issues really don't matter that much, because it tells you where your priorities are if you could so blatantly just disregard what God has blessed us with, and that is, you know, the ability to accept the life that He has provided, and to just snuff that out. Well, to me, that kind of says it all, if one would condone such a thing. But sometimes Republicans, you know, we're being seen as the party of no ideas, which is, again, just a propaganda, and that's being propagandized via assistance from the liberal media, because it is Republicans who have proposed the sensible ideas. The country is looking for a party, a person, people who can provide the solutions. We must provide the solutions. We have the solutions. We know what needs to be done. We actually do need to repeal Obamacare, and we need to replace it with genuine patient-centered health care, and it's been the Republicans who have proposed the solution to that. We need to stop growing debt. Again, Obama has increased it, what, $7 trillion, and we need to balance the budget. These are simple things to understand, and that's why it blows me away that sometimes the Republicans become wayward and they don't stick to these simple things that need to be done. We need to reform our bankrupt entitlement programs, because they are literally bankrupt, and that's not fair to those who think that at the end of the line, you know, they've got a secure pension, and they've got security via Social Security that's there for them. We don't know if it's going to be there for them, because things are really upside down economically, and all of those funds and these unfunded mandates and these unfunded entitlements. I think people are going to be shocked, again, unless things change quickly regarding what's actually in those accounts. We need to secure our nation's borders first before we even think about immigration reform. You can't be a nation without borders. It's as simple as that. And we do need to develop our own natural resources. That's how you build a prosperous and a peaceful world, is by allowing what God has created for us to be used for man's benefit. So we know what the solutions are. We know what the solutions are. And what we need to do to implement the solutions is like what we did back in 2010. I say all the time, hey, Republican establishment, again, bless your hearts. You know that 2010 election victory that swept you guys into power? You didn't build that. The Tea Party did. You gotta admit that. We won big focus, and we knew that we had to stop big government. So we encouraged, we implored everyone to join the cause, even those who don't agree with us on every single issue. And it's funny that the left claims diversity and tolerance for other ideas and all that. And yeah, right. Now they have no respect for diversity of opinion. And those of us who love liberty, we can set the example of what true tolerance and acceptance of diversity is. We are the ones who don't say, freedom of speech is fine as long as nobody is offended by it. We're not the ones who've been doing that. They have been. True tolerance isn't conformity or coercion. It's respecting differences and learning to live together in peace. So when we talk about the need to bring more people into the Republican Party, we have to set a good example along those lines. The best way to respect our differences is to keep government out of our business, to keep politicians out of our circles of influence, our little worlds, because no, these politicians don't know better. But it is a smaller, limited government that doesn't spy on us and doesn't make us buy something we don't want. And smaller, smarter government doesn't harass us because we disagree with the president. It doesn't tax us to death nor after death. The movement for smaller government, it's big enough for every American who loves liberty and true equality and economic freedom. That agenda is big enough, that tent is big enough, and that message resonates. I believe it so resonates as of late, and that's going to grow in these next months as more people hear from the candidates what they're actually believing and envisioning for this nation. I've been very, very blessed these past few years getting to know even more of America. And it's not been from the top down, it's been from the heart looking out. And I know this, and Alabama is really the picture of this, especially Baldwin County. You guys are the picture of this. The wisdom, the common sense, the character, the grit that is here, well, that's elsewhere also. I think you guys just are really, really blessed with a lot of great circumstances, a lot of great resources that are here where it's kind of like all those virtues, they're kind of doubled here. And I think you should not take it for granted what you have. But it's those things that we're seeing here, the successes in Alabama, in a county like this, that need to be spread to the rest of the nation. That wisdom, that character. I see that, though, not just here, in other parts of the country. And I see that wisdom and that character and that grit and that love for America. I see more of that in our soldiers and in our mama grizzlies and in our teachers and students and our fishermen and our firemen and farmers across this nation than any elitist in that faraway place called Washington, D.C. I see more common sense out here than we are receiving and seeing in D.C. More common sense that I believe will ever be found in the cocktail parties of power in D.C. And if we the people have a united message to send to Washington, especially as we come into these elections, it's this, that they need to get over themselves. It's not about you, politician in D.C. It's about the promise of America. And it's about freedom and prosperity and opportunity. Our message is liberty, and it's been resounding in this nation, well, ever since a band of brothers, those patriots who dumped tea in that Boston harbor. That message has resonated, and with every increase in the debt limit today, with every tax hike, with every corrupt deal that benefits the crony class on the backs of the working class, well, the cry from the grassroots is growing louder. Of course the media, the Democrats, are trying to snuff that out. Of course, they want to criticize and condemn those who would not be hesitant at all to say, I'm proud to associate with the Tea Party and that grassroots effort. Of course they want to snuff that out. But no, I think the cry is growing louder. The passion's growing louder from we, the people, rising up again to make our voices heard. In 2010, we took back the House. This year, we are taking back the Senate. People know how imperative this is. So we all need to be involved as a team, as Team America. We need new conservative leaders to step up and to fight the corruption in politics. We need leaders who will keep their promises and not retreat under pressure from the media, from the machines on either side of the aisle. And we need warriors with strong convictions and principle and backbone to be energized enough to get the job done. We need to be focused. We need to be confident enough to know that we are going to win big this year. And we are never going to give up the fight for liberty, because generations of Americans, those who have come and gone before us, they have paid too high a price for us to ever give up. That is what's in my heart. And I think it has a lot to do with my son, who has chosen military, because I see him come home from Iraq and Afghanistan. I see his buddies who are hurting. 22 vets a day are killing themselves, because I believe a lot of it has to do with the sacrifices that they have made for this country. Obviously, they're not feeling that we're grateful enough for them. We have to show them. How do we show them that we are grateful as a body, as a government? Again, you don't cut their budget. You don't cut their benefits. You put them first. You put those in a VA hospital. They should be the ones getting free Obamacare instead of the prisoners that are getting free Obamacare. You show those who have made the sacrifice that they will come first in this country. That is how we're going to get this back. And it's going to take people like you. It's going to take people like you with the passion that we see in Alabama. It's going to take people like you putting your resources towards those who are willing to stand up and fight. So I thank you for willing to stand up and fight, Alabama. You are an example for the rest of the country. So I thank you, and I say God bless you, Alabama. God bless the United States of America.